Hello there. In this session, we're going to be discussing just a few tips on maintaining your productive office. It is absolutely necessary that you just continue to do things that's going to keep you more efficient, more productive. Now that you have gotten to the point where you have streamlined your business, streamlined your office, and done the necessary work in order to keep things operating on an efficient and very optimal level. So we're just going to go over just a few tips for maintaining your productive office. We're going to talk about the flow of clutter. We're going to talk about allocating time to maintain your systems. We're going to talk about the fact that every document should have an assignment, and we'll talk a little bit about desktop organization. Now, let's talk for a moment about the flow of clutter, or the flow of paperwork, the flow of anything that comes into your space, whether it's a digital space or whether it's your mental space, whether it's your email box or email inbox, or even your physical space, your office. There is a flow to it. So the important thing to remember or to keep in mind is that, again, there is a flow. So you're going to have a way, or you must have a way to be able to capture and keep everything, whether it is, mental clutter, digital clutter, physical clutter. There is a flow, and there's a way that you have to, in order to keep the clutter down, you have to incorporate a way to keep the process going. Okay, so your job is going to be to process the information. Okay, now here is just a quick little diagram that I created that just kind of gives a little bit more of a demonstration of how things flow into your office, or your space rather. So I'm going to turn on my little, let's see if I can turn on my little laser printer here. Yeah, my little laser. Oh, isn't that just real cool? Okay, so again, stuff right here. Stuff is going to be entering your space, whether, well, let me just go back here. Okay, so whether it is, mental clutter, physical clutter, it doesn't matter, like we just said. But for the purpose of this demonstration, we're just going to talk about just basically a document, okay? So it comes in, stuff comes into your inbox, okay? What you have to do is to decide, is that item, or is that document, or is that email, this applies to all of it. Is it actionable? If the answer is no, then what you're going to do is you're going to move it to this area, okay? And in this area, you can bin it, or you can have a reminder. You can do, and here's the thing. What you're going to be doing, these categories here, you can take the document and write on the document these specific actions, okay? Because the important thing that you're going to have to do in order to keep the clutter down is that everything has to have an assignment, and we'll just kind of go over that in just a little bit here. But what's going to happen, and the stuff is going to come in, you have to determine whether it's actionable, or what is the action. Okay, so if there are no immediate actions to it, then you're going to decide whether it needs to be put in a bin, whether you need to put a reminder on it, whether that's a someday maybe category, if it goes into a research pile, or waiting, or if it goes into a project. Okay, now this is how you're going to process any item. No it goes here in this area. If it's yes, then you have another question to ask yourself. Does it belong to a project? If the answer is yes, then you have a few more action steps to take. Okay? If it belongs to a project, then you have to generate actions that relate to the project. Okay? If it's no, then it is something that you have to take. You have to allow yourself to, I would say, no more than 5 minutes to handle. Okay? If you can do that, if it's not a project, then, and you say then, yes, I can handle it, and it's not a project, then guess what? You go ahead and do it. But you have 2 to 5 minutes to take care of that item. If the answer is no, then it goes here. You're either going to defer it to the calendar, or there's a next action to assign to it. Or you're going to delegate it. If there's no one to delegate it to, then perhaps there's a system or some type of automation or something in place that can take care of this item. Okay? Now, so this is, again, just a diagram that shows you the flow of how to handle clutter. If you follow this process here, you will be able to maintain and keep a clear, efficient office without clutter, because everything has a process. Okay? Everything has a process. Okay. I'll go to the next one. Now, the thing that you're going to do is you want to make sure that you allocate time to maintain your filing systems. You've created an efficient filing system, and so in order to keep things efficient, because remember, it takes time for the clutter to accumulate, so it's going to take time to get it clear. But now that you have it all clear, you want to make sure that you allocate time to maintain this new filing system that you have. Okay? So you may want to just take a few minutes a day, maybe about 15, 20 minutes a day, in order to get rid of the paperwork. Perhaps you have it in, an inbox, or maybe you have it just a small pile at the end of the desk. That what you want to do is you want to make sure that you allocate enough time in order to process every document. Okay? That is going to be the key. Whether it's receipts, whether it's invoices, or whatever the document is, you want to make sure that you process your documents. This applies to everything, all types of clutter, mental clutter, digital clutter, physical clutter, documents, receipts. The key is to process them. Now, let's talk a little bit about how you're going to assign an action to your documents. Okay? You want to make sure that you put a date on those documents. Whenever it comes in, put a date on it. Okay? You want to make sure that there's an action assigned to it. Does it have to be filed, just like we showed you in the diagram? Does it have to be filed? Is it a payment that has to be made on it? You want to make sure that these are these action items, or whatever action or step or process that has to be taken on that document. You want to make sure that you use that, and it can be a sticky note, as long as this document, before this document gets to the next place, if you will, it must have information on it that tells you what to do next with it. That's going to help you to keep the clutter down. The 3 things that you're always going to do with a document: you're either going to act on it, you're going to file it, or you are going to discard it. Okay? That's the only 3 things that you can do with a document. There's an action, you may have to file it, or you're going to discard it. Okay? Now, that action, again, could be a payment. okay? That file could be that it goes in, you know, a file to be acted on later, but just make sure that you have something on this document, written or a sticky note or a Post-it note or what have you, that tells you what to do with that document, and you want to make sure you have a date on it. Now, let's talk a little bit about desktop organization, okay? So you can choose to have an inbox, just two stacks there. Your documents can come in and then they can go out here, or you can have what we call a tickler system, okay? A tickler system is just a temporary file, and it could be something that looks like this, that is a temporary, okay, that allows you to store your items until they get into their final destination. Remember, what we're doing here is we are processing every document, and every document, when it comes in, it must have a place to go, okay? So you can either, if you find yourself, because not everyone can do this. I have clients that, that's not able to have an inbox because they just put everything in there, and there's no action items, there's no steps, there's nothing that, no one knows what to do with it, including themselves. So what you want to make sure that you do, again, is to make sure that when you put those items in your inbox, that it has an action to it, and then, of course, an out box, what to do with that. If that's your system, that is perfectly okay. So you can do either or you can do both. You can actually, use this to collect all of your documents here, and then process them to go here until they're ready to go to its permanent destination. Now, again, we're talking about just a tickler or fingertip system, okay? Now, here's what you can do with that. I mean, a fingertip system or tickler file is excellent for rosters, vendor lists, bills to be paid, etc. You can even set it up in a way that you have a 30-day tickler filing system here. So instead of these categories here, you would have folders that's got 30. You can put 30 folders here, and each day of the month represents, you can put documents that you got on the 1st, or documents that you got on the 2nd, or, and you can continue on there, or you can just do it in categories. The thing is, the whole object of the game here is to keep a clear working space at all times. But this is a great way to maintain your desktop organization with a tickler or fingertip system. Okay, and that is actually all we're going to have in this particular session. If you have any questions, please make sure that you reach out to me. You can send me a message via this portal, or text me or email me. That's all we're going to have for this session. You have an excellent day.